Hello and welcome to FreightWaves Live at Home. I'm Dooner here with
The Dude. Welcome everybody from beautiful Chattanooga, Tennessee, the heart of Freight Alley, my friend. How are you, Dooner?
It's going good. For those of you who are not familiar, this is What the Truck. We are a twice weekly podcast and FreightWaves TV show. Catch us live every Monday and Friday at 12 p.m. Eastern Time on your LinkedIn, on your Facebook, on FreightWaves TV app, and then podcast players everywhere. Just look up What the Truck or look up Freightcast to find every single FreightWaves podcast. And hey, guys, thank you for joining us. FreightWaves Live at Home.
Yeah.
Exciting day.
It's been great already, man.
It has been great.
You know, not that I'm shocked, but it really has.
Well, you know what's really cool? So Tom Curry was saying, like, you know, we're talking about behavioral changes and disruption.
Yeah.
He was talking about how conference behavior is going to shift and change just by the nature of the way you can communicate at virtual events in real time. And he said the biggest challenge when we come back to in-person conferences, people will want to randomly give their opinions or thoughts, just yelling from the back. You're wrong, dude.
Yeah, no kidding. Yeah, just go at it. It's kind of like English Parliament, or you know, right? Yeah. Just yell, boo.
Well, hey everyone, you might notice these mugs right here. You might notice our backdrop. We'd like to thank ArcBest. ArcBest is more than logistics. Whatever you do, wherever you ship, ArcBest makes it easier for you to do business. ArcBest combines reliable capacity, innovative technology, and trusted relationships to take the complexity out of your supply chain and keep your shipments moving. That's what makes ArcBest more than just logistics.
And great coffee mugs, I might add.
Delicious. Yeah. Good to the last drop ship.
Yeah, like
as we said. We got some pictures too. So this is a virtual event. Everyone's looking at their home setup. Can we take a look at some of these?
Yeah.
Let's take a look at these. Oh, look at that nice setup. A lot of these desks are a lot more organized than my own as well.
Yeah, it looks like they prepped.
Yeah, no, it's beautiful. It's got a backdrop of speakers right there.
Yeah.
I think we even saw some pets that people sent as well, which is wild. Also, folks, this is a live and interactive show. So like Steve Hankel says, more cowbell. Definitely a little bit of that for you, Steve.
Absolutely.
And Kyle Taylor says that shirt is epic. Dooner Kyle, if you know, he does his Fun Shirt Fridays. Yeah. Where he gives you a little sonar demo every week. Cook up with him on LinkedIn.
Yeah.
Well, fantastic. Let's get to our first guest. Our first guest is Mo, or you may call him Mustafa Azizi. He is the co-founder and CEO of ZUUM app. Mo, thanks for joining us at FreightWaves Live at Home.
Hey guys, how's it going?
It's going great. I love the shirt, man.
Thanks, bro. I gotta send you some from Israel.
Yeah. Someone gave us wrong information.
It's a great connection we have all the way in Israel.
No, but you are in lovely Irvine, though, right?
Yeah, Irvine, California.
So excellent, Mustafa. Welcome to the show, man. Nice to have you.
And ZUUM app, you tackle defragmentation through your platform. So let's talk a little bit about it. For those not familiar, what's ZUUM?
Yeah, so we like to think of ourselves as a logistics super platform. We're on a mission to coin that term in the industry, and we started a company about 5 years ago. Essentially, what we do is two value propositions. We're a digital brokerage, but what makes us unique is we'd like to think that we're the first company in the world to take our solution, put it in a box, and offer it as software to either a shipper, a freight broker, or trucking company, sharing our technology with them, kind of like an open source solution, and get everybody together on one collaborative network.
Hey, speaking of getting everyone together and collaborating, I was stalking your LinkedIn page, and I noticed you had a really cool Halloween party with your team. Speaking of your team, are most of you virtual and still remote?
Yeah, so we're not a huge company. We're about 70 people, and we're split like I would say about 20% sales, 40% brokerage, and then 40% technology. Before COVID-19, most of the people we had were coming in the office. A portion of our development is offshore in Romania and Ukraine.
Yeah, excellent stuff. So, Mustafa, you guys hit really the three most the natural participants within the industry: the shipper, the carriers, and the intermediaries, the brokers, right? And solving those solutions. One of the things that they've really faced this year, obviously, has been fragmentation of that capacity. How do you guys go about solving that issue?
Yeah, so we're young, and we're like one of the Davids to the Goliaths out there. And one thing we've done really in the last 5 years is, instead of spending a lot of our funding that we got on marketing, what we did is we actually hunkered down and focused on building a product that would be, number one, easy to use, very intelligent, and scalable. So what we did is, if you look at all the shippers, trucking companies, and freight brokers, they use a system to manage their business, but then they also use another system, whether it's automated or non-automated, to source capacity. What we did is we built both systems for all three stakeholders. So it was really difficult, but we built a TMS for the shipper, the carrier, and the freight broker, but we also built a freight marketplace for all three stakeholders. Now what we're doing is we're trying to intertwine all six, and our goal is to go to a trucking company that has 100 trucks that might be paying one of these larger legacy TMS companies $100,000 a year for software, and say, here, we built something 10 times better. It's going to turn you, the trucking company, into Uber Freight, and we won't charge you a dime for it. And all we want in exchange is for you to come and share your capacity on a global network.
Wow, yeah, I love I can't help but notice the active whiteboard behind you. I love an active whiteboard. It gives me Good Will Hunting vibes.
I was going to say, is that the secret sauce to ZUUM behind him? You might want to cover that.
Well, that's what I was going to ask. Is he trying to solve the problem of fragmentation of systems? Are you working that out back there?
It's not your fault. It's not your fault. Yeah, so, yeah, that's one thing that I've noticed with a lot of the players in the industry. A lot of them are like, so it's important to know my background, right? I went to school at UC Berkeley and studied supply chain economics. And my first job out of UC Berkeley was working in the brokerage for 5 years at J.B. Hunt. And then I worked at a couple of trucking companies, and then I've been doing this digital stuff for the last 4 or 5 years. And what I noticed while doing that is that there's either somebody coming in from Silicon Valley trying to solve our problems in the trucking industry, or it's like an ex-trucker guy or broker guy trying to figure out technology and build it and spend most of his money on marketing. What we focus at ZUUM is something called product market fit. Every day that we develop our product, we use ourselves and our brokerage and our trucking company partners as a test bed, and we better our product. Most recently, I was talking to one of the leaders in the space in the digital brokerage world, and he saw our tech stack 8 months ago, and he saw it today, and he's like, man, I don't understand. Like, you guys don't market a lot, but what you have is super slick. And that's the thing about ZUUM. If one of our partners is BNSF Logistics, which is like the number 7 brokerage in America, I truly affirm that the reason they partnered with us is I was listening to the last show, and the president, Sarah of Trinity Logistics, said that she's been through 4 software revolutions within her company. And wow. What we're trying to do is give one software to the company, and as we develop our software, that download or that upgrade comes in for free. So by sharing our technology, you kind of get a software company that's embedded with you. Just think on a personal level and step outside of trucking, right? If you have an iPhone, last night I was sleeping, I woke up, and this thing became way better with all these new features. It downloaded and fixed itself. Imagine if software providers brought that kind of value to trucking companies, so they don't have to spend $300,000 every 3 years, or they don't have to.
Mo, I bet you'd say, "How do you like dem apples?" Right, solving that issue.
Is that right?
We are running out of time on the interview, but I want to make sure our guests know where to go. What's the web address?
So our website address is www.ZUUM. That's ZUUM app.com. You guys can connect with us. We have another event coming up on November 9th, which is called The Future of Trucking with Plug and Play. And we have stakeholders from Coca-Cola, Sherwin-Williams, General Motors, Home Depot, some of our customers. And we're all going to talk with some of the digital
Excellent. Thank you so much for your time today, Mo. We're going to go to our next guest right after the break. It's Robert Brothers, Director of Product Development with McLeod. Stick with us. You know, a big theme at this event has been disruption, disruptive technology, disruptive communication.
Absolutely.
Sometimes we have our own disruptive communication, so our guest audio is disrupted. So we're not going to jump into that just yet. So let's recap the event a little bit.
Yeah.
So we open up, right, with the keynote with Shelley Simpson and John Roberts. What did you make of that one?
Yeah, so I thought it was really, really good because they talked about, like we're talking about, disruption. But, you know, they talked about it, and Shelley Simpson, well, both of them did. They really talked about how this legacy company purposely managed chaos or disruption in order to grow and to bring new technology, which I thought was a really interesting take on, you know, not just thinking out of the box.
Yeah.
But like, you know, when we discussed it, US Express did the same, very much the same thing with Variant.
Yeah.
Right? Bringing these people, let's forget everything that we do here and bring this in. And the difficulties there in managing that type of stuff, right?
Well, what USX said, they were very cognizant of the fact that the legacy, right, the legacy company, USX, may try to hammer down the nail that sticks out, which is Variant, right? That's chaos. Right. Because when you're a legacy company, you're so used to these learned behaviors. You're so used to how the company should operate. I mean, you get that dopamine release every time something goes well.
That's right.
So when something comes out of the norm like that, the executives up top, it's very rational and reasonable, but I really liked what Shelley had to say about that. They also seem to be very aware of this fact that you need to let the fire rage a little bit.
Yeah, you do, but you also have to manage it, right? It's like a controlled burn.
Yeah.
You know, getting that secret sauce about how long you do it, right? Because even he said, you know, you don't have a blank check forever, but it's a managed type of system as to where you've got this plan and you look for those milestones along the way on specific ideas or whatever that controlled chaos might be.
You know, it's interesting to see in freight too, because especially if you were at our event yesterday, Freight Tech Ventures, it was talking about how this was an unsexy field, you know, investing it in the past, venture capital money, very unsexy in the past. So big changes coming along, becoming more investable, disruption happening all across the field. But one of the things they said, and we heard it from our last guest, been through 4 different tech iterations. And what happens is you start the chaos, right?
That's right.
But then sometimes you control it too much and you lose focus. And the result at the end isn't what you needed at the beginning.
Yeah, it's very difficult. There's always these litmus tests that have to be going on, and getting the legacy culture to be able to adapt to that and see what's going on is sometimes very difficult. Like at US Express, they had a whole separate management team, a whole separate team working on it to make sure that they could, they oversaw it and controlled it, but to make sure there wasn't anybody, like you pointed out, hammering down that nail and losing the focus of what they were really trying to do.
The other thing I like that I heard from Shelley and from Robert was they were talking about how there's always that quest to get that hour back, right? That hour back for the driver. Time is money. How do you maximize that? For those of you out there trying to sell to these carriers too, right? Maybe you have some disruptive technology. Lean into that. How can you get them that hour back?
Yeah, exactly. And it brings up a great point. They didn't look for tech and then how to apply that tech.
Yeah.
They looked internally and said, okay, we've got this legacy, we've got this great service, this reliable service, right? It's got its values and everything, and we're doing great. But how do we get this chaos in here, right? And so they went searching for issues, pain points. And one of them that they found was 3 hours out of every day of the 11 hours was wasted. Mm-hmm. How do they figure out why that's happening? How do they bring that back and what can be done with it? I mean,
Ashwin from Load Shop, too, he said, he pulled out this quote from me. He said, "You are what you do, not what you'll say you do." He loved that Shelley brought that concept up, wise words to live by. And, sometimes that can happen. You hear a lot of these sessions, you go to live conferences or virtual events, you're talking about digital transformation, you hear the talking head or the speaker up there, and it kind of all blends together, right?
Yeah,
we got to disrupt. You hear all the buzzwords, and it lulls you to sleep like a metronome.
It does. It really does.
But not that particular keynote, because I like the twist she put in there and that twist of chaos.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. And similar to that point, our last guest, Mustafa, you brought up you have his LinkedIn in there, and he's got a quote on there, and it says, "Pain is temporary, to quit is forever." Yeah. And it's kind of the same thing when you're trying to manage this chaos, because it's painful to not stamp it out.
Yeah.
It's painful to invest that money when, at first, when you're looking at these things, it's difficult. It's disruptive. It's like training a new employee, right? Mm-hmm. You'd rather just do it yourself because sometimes it's harder to train a person, right? But you've got to take that pain, because with that pain comes success.
Yeah. Josh Ashbury from HubTran, he also kind of touched on this. He said digital transformation projects are typically major lifts. Having a digital strategy is directionally important to set the tone, but you normally see years-long projects that have scope creep. Focus on small, high-impact wins as part of the execution. Work within the chaos. React to the chaos, right? Because the journey where you start may not be where it needs to be at the end.
Yeah, absolutely. You've got to be able to bounce with where you're going. Yeah. Right. I mean, yesterday at Freight Tech Ventures.
Oh, of course.
Talking about some of the paths to getting that influx of capital to grow were not as well thought out as they planned. Right. Yeah. There was several that were spoken to that talked about that. I wish it was as well planned out as you said it was, but you really have to react and go. And it's the same thing with digitization and disruption. And when you've got this chaos and you're moving, sometimes that fire moves. Right? If you're talking about the burning of the chaos, and you've got to control it to where you want it to go. But sometimes you got to follow where it's going because it's leading you to a better path.
Speaking of disruption, we had another keynote. It was Craig Fuller speaking to Mike Isaac. He wrote the book Super Pumped.
Yeah.
They were talking about Uber. Now, there was some fascinating conversation going on with them, but there was also a sub-debate going on the comments section over at live.freightwaves.com. Head over there, join the conversation, register. You could win a Peloton. So the conversation going on there, though, was... Is there enough faith that Uber, the brand, because Uber is a livery, they have challenges making money. Can they make enough money in freight? Are they a disruptor? Will people want to use them because they, especially in freight, they see brand value in sticking with certain companies? But my thought on that, with anything disruptive, is there can be a place for anything if you provide good customer service. And if people can book loads and get paid quickly, have their freight move quickly, and there aren't a ton of hurdles or a ton of challenges, because I'll tell you what, like 3PL is great with human beings, but Uber has human beings working there too.
Yeah, absolutely.
And 3PLs, there are bad 3PLs and bad brokers all over the place too that are going to have trouble getting your freight. I mean, Uber's not immune to those challenges. I don't think Uber Freight necessarily solves that, but I know that a lot of drivers loved it because they got that detention pay really quickly through their system.
Through Uber's system. Yeah. And, I have faith in Bill Drieger. We know Bill Drieger. And,
he's a great drummer.
He's a great drummer, by the way. You got to catch that. You can catch that by going to one of our podcasts.
Yeah.
But he's got a great direction there. And the shifts that they've made as they've grown have gone from, really this almost Groupon-like type thing where, cutting the market and building it, and they're really creating great value now. I mean, they brought out their enterprise and they're linked and they're bringing in solutions and visibility between the carriers and the shippers, and tremendous data play inside there to see what's going on there and that transparency. So, I think they're fine in freight, and I think they will be profitable, and they're going because they're bringing in some great value adds.
Another thing I learned between this and the Freight Tech venture that we did, hearing from a lot of CEOs and founders, is a perspective that we don't often think of. Because you look at the CEO and the founder, they're kind of lionized, they're put up on a pedestal. But hearing the human side of it, the constant rejection, the constant self-doubt, that constant roller coaster of being in charge of a growing company, growing employees, and especially the point where you're not worrying about stockholders yet, you're just worrying about making that company make it to that next seed round. It's just fascinating to hear how they think about that, because I often don't. You look at someone like Craig Fuller and you're like, wow, he's got the life, but you don't realize that how many no's he hears during the day to get that yes.
Yeah, absolutely. And Craig spoke to the fact that both of them spoke to the fact that you need to evolve as you go, right? There's the way you act as this maverick, this pirate, if you will, which we like to call ourselves pirate and really celebrate that.
Or cowboys.
You got to maintain that, but also kind of tone it down and become more diplomatic, as they talked about, as your company grows.
Yeah. It's true. So we're going to go to our next guest, who I think is able to connect fine, and he's going to be in the green room. You're actually going to get a live look in. This is a new thing we are doing here. It's
very cool.
Vaughn Moore. He's the president and CEO at AIT. He's going to talk about pandemic response, and it's an important time. It's a topic we're sick of, but look, we just had the highest number of infections in the United States that we've had throughout the course of this COVID-19 thing. It's flu season. Things could get worse. Rates are getting expensive. We'll find out more after the break. Now we're going to be joined by Vaughn Moore. He's president and CEO at AIT. Hey, Vaughn, thank you so much for taking a little time out of your day to join us at FreightWaves Live at Home.
I'm excited to be here.
Excited to have you. I like your jacket. Kind of matches the whole motif I got going on.
I was noticing, I just need one of those shirts. I think that's right up my alley.
I think so too. It's a little nod to our next event called Space Waves. You know, we're doing all sorts of wild things over here on FreightWaves, but we're also trying to solve issues here on Earth. And I know AIT is as well. Tough year, right? COVID, one of the reasons we're doing this virtually. So this is kind of an immersive conversation as we are impacted by it in real time. But pandemic response, how has the year been for AIT, especially as these cases start ratcheting back up?
Well, I mean, we've all been through the roller coaster, right? When it first hit, everyone was affected, especially in that first quarter, beginning of second quarter, not knowing what this was going to look like. But I think the companies that were able to adapt with their culture quickly benefited probably the best because they were able to be flexible and adapt to working from home and understanding what that means. You know, we were an essential business, so that was important that we still had people that were able to come into work and be sensitive to that fact and be able to platoon people too. So for us, that worked out really well. We were with everyone else when things went on hold, and then since then we've seen a major spike. I mean, our business has boomed during COVID, even well past PPE opportunities that we were participating in. So you know, we've been fortunate. I think logistics is one of those areas that people don't realize, as you mentioned earlier, not maybe as sexy as other areas, but we perform very well as an industry and certainly as a company during unforeseen happenings, whether it be a recession or certainly pandemics, and we've responded very, very well as a company.
Excellent stuff, Vaughn. So you're mentioning peaks and spikes during the pandemic. What are you guys seeing right now during this peak season, during this unusual, very unusual year?
Well, it's something that we really haven't seen in a fourth quarter particularly. I would say we're going to be facing a later peak season, especially out of Asia. So we're going to see peak season, I think, extend past December into early January. We're currently seeing the charter market for bookings really going all the way out into early December now. So that's something that we haven't seen before. Of course, the charter market has been something very unusual in general this whole year. We're also seeing passenger aircraft continue to be converted. That's happening as we speak during this peak season. Ocean bookings they've carried over into late November, early December for bookings right now. So while that's really hot and heavy, we're still seeing those challenges. In the air freight market, we've got a pretty heavy demand, low supply situation that's going on, as you know. Mm-hmm. I mean, we've got 50% of the aircraft in the air around the world anyway. So it's continuing to be a challenge, but those companies that are able to weather that storm and have pre-booked space that have already been allocated are probably at an advantage overall.
Hey, Vaughn, companies are nothing with...
I would just like to also add the e-commerce world that we've got going on, that we're at a major spike. I mean, we've got customers that are up 400% year over year, major ones that you would be aware of. I think we're going to see that e-com residential delivery spike going on well beyond Christmas. I think that's going to continue on into early January.
Hey, Vaughn, companies are nothing without their people. So how has your team been holding up throughout this?
Well, we're only as good, of course, as what our people bring to the table, and their adaptability and being able to weather the storm, but also volume-wise. I mean, we are booming as a company. So you take all the uncertainty that's gone on, and then all of a sudden you start to explode as a company. You're asking more of people while being in a new work environment. I think that's the beauty of a culture in a company, that if you've got a robust culture that people believe in and they feel appreciated, then they respond well. But it's been very difficult. Our main goal initially was to keep people safe and healthy, of course. And then next it comes to protecting jobs and making sure that people feel that way, that they're valued, and that you're not being inconsistent in your messages and what you're doing into managing unforeseen territory.
Yeah, Vaughn, you know, as we've been going through this year with the pandemic and everything, obviously everybody knows about that. We've seen a lot of fragmentation of capacity, fragmentation of markets, but also fragmentation really, or changes, disruption in the commodities that are flowing in the mix of business. Can you speak to that and how you guys have, what you've seen and how you guys have handled that?
Yeah, the three areas that I've certainly noticed, I mean, technology has been a huge play in this entire year. When you've got learning from home, you've got working from home. So laptops and everything happening in technology, we've had tremendous spikes in that. That's only continuing. And, one of those customers, as I mentioned, is 400% up. So you're obviously having that area affecting what's happening. We participate very heavily in life sciences, so and temperature controlled particularly. So you're having a lot of impact on that throughout the entire year. And we're also going to be participating in the COVID vaccine and a portion of what will be affecting the world. And that will be affecting our air freight capacity, particularly around the globe. And it's going to involve numerous carriers, not just AIT Worldwide Logistics. So that's going to be very, very interesting to watch as we develop. But the charter market particularly was one that we've never seen a year like this. So never in the history of our industry have we seen the charter market have the capacity challenges that they face this year, and it's only going to continue. And we also are going to see the passenger aircraft challenges on capacity continue for the next, I think, maybe even a permanent change there, gentlemen.
President Trump said that the military was going to handle the logistics of this vaccine distribution. Do you think that we should take that as gospel, or do you think AIT is going to fit into that equation for this lift? How does the private market fit into that?
Private sector will absolutely be participating in this space. There's no doubt about that. Government can only handle so much anyway, but private sector has always been very important, and we're very involved with the government. So we do a lot of business. In fact, this particular year we participate in it. So it will be a combination, and that's what it's going to take around the globe in order to be able to deliver this vaccine. And also, we have to be aware that we're talking several years. This is not something that is going to just happen in the next 12 months. It's going to be a several-year process.
Yeah, it definitely is. I mean, you bring up
people are so patient, and people are so
Yeah, that's. I was going to bring something,
but I mean, we have to be realistic on that.
Yeah, but so you're obviously in Operation Warp Speed, I think is what it is called, or
yeah,
right?
My 6-year-old named that.
Did he? Yeah, just don't go plaid.
Yeah.
But so looking ahead with that involved in e-commerce and home delivery, et cetera, what are the challenges? What are you seeing looking ahead?
Well, I mean, it's really the demand is there, the highest demand we've seen in many, many years, maybe ever again, and then supply is being challenged. So you have to be able to find creative ways to get the product to the end user, and that's a challenge right now that the entire industry is facing with air freight capacity issues, trucking issues, final mile delivery issues. We're having our line haul providers are being affected and flooded more so than ever. It's an unprecedented time, and it's going to take creative minds. I also believe that while there's tremendous opportunity in market share, I think we're going to see collaboration and more mergers and acquisitions in a variety of areas that are going to affect the market. They're going to help, hopefully, with that capacity.
Wow. Vaughn, thank you so much for your time today. This has been a super insightful session. I wish we had all day. This should just be our conference next time. Me and you. We'll just take over the stage over here.
We'll be ready to go.
Okay. Well, hey, we appreciate you. We appreciate you coming on. Next up, after the break, you know who we're going to be talking to? Hope White.
Hope White, yeah.
Yeah. About reefer.
Real reefer.
Reefer. No, reefer in reefer.
Reefer. Is it reefer?
Reefer that's got reefer in it.
Do you transfer reefer by reefer?
Yeah. Who's on first?
I don't know. I think
we're going to blaze her up when she comes up next.
Hope's going to be.
It was on the ballot a lot of different places, and it did pass. Reefer moving around America.
That's right.
Going to be an important category. We'll be back after this to talk to Hope. Now we're back with one of our favorite guests.
Absolutely. Yes. It's been too long.
Well, I had her on radio, and we did a little bit of this topic on the show we do on Sirius XM's Road Dog Trucking on Saturdays, 3 to 5 p.m., channel 146. But this is Hope White. She's CEO of HD White Logistics. Hope, thanks for joining us for this mellow conversation about reefer and reefer.
Yeah.
Oh, we got to bring her audio up.
There she is.
Don't tell. Hey, Dooner and Michael, don't tell everybody about my shirt now.
Oh, I didn't tell. I'm not giving any slogans away over here.
Sure.
That's my slogan.
No, I thought your slogan. I thought your slogan was, "If you got some weight, we'll move the freight."
That is our business slogan. But since we're moving reefer and reefers now, we got a new one.
Well, hey, you must have been watching the election, not just to see who the president would be, but on the ballot in a lot of different places was legalizing recreational and medical marijuana. Even Mississippi, a place you might think would be a little bit more conservative, it passed by 73%, Hope.
Absolutely. It's about time, don't you think?
Yeah.
Break.
No argument for
Need a
me.
break.
No argument for me. So, Hope, tell us a little bit. How do you get into this business of reefer? Because, I think the last big story on reefer a lot of people heard was about those Idaho the truckers who went into Idaho. They
I was wondering about that.
Yeah, and people got scared. They were like, drivers got scared, companies got scared. They said, I don't want to touch this stuff. But then Hope comes along and says, I'll touch your reefer. Tell us.
I'll put your reefer in my reefers. Absolutely. So Dooner, actually, we got into it when we relocated for our second office down here in Metter, Georgia, for container storage services that we're doing to support the Georgia Port Authority. And Metter is a agricultural community here. And so we actually partner with the Green Toad Hemp Farm here in Metter. They are a hemp farm that is recently established here in the area, and then we partnered with Handy Kennedy Jr.'s hemp farm, and just so happened when we came into town, probably about a month later, they were harvesting and needed some logistics services, and we were there to support.
Wow, and you look wonderful out there in the field. Like you're going right out to seeing the growing operations and all of that kind of thing. What are some of the challenges though you face in moving this kind of good?
So some of the challenges are definitely on the law enforcement perspective side. The federal law, the state law, and the local entities are not aligned on that. My background is law enforcement. And so in doing my research to make sure we were in the clear, there was some gray area there that there's not an alignment between the federal government and the state in the requirements, for the truckers to have proper documentation when moving the hemp.
Yeah, so crossing state lines, that type of stuff, it's different for hemp than it is just full on marijuana cannabis, right?
Absolutely.
But Hope, some states do look at it almost the same, right? You can get in, depending on the wrong jurisdiction you go into.
Right. Well, she probably has a team of people that test the plants before they haul them.
Oh, how do you get that job?
That's what I was going to say. I want to put in my application.
So that's actually left up to the farmers to test. We're not testing any hemp around here. We just provide the trucking services.
So you don't have drivers that are like dual drivers and then testers of the plants.
Oh.
That would probably be against the safety regulations, I would think.
Hey, what's the demand?
That's probably going to be a no.
What's the demand like for hemp? Because it's still a niche business. Like we just mentioned, a lot of carriers, a lot of general freight movers don't want to touch this kind of stuff. This isn't really your general FAK type of freight, right? This is a more specialized commodity.
Yeah.
So you must be doing okay. Can you call your shots a little bit?
Well, not yet, but we're definitely working on putting ourselves in that specialized market as experts. We're partnering with a local entity here as well called AgriUnity and Georgia Grown, so that we can partner with other farmers in the area and providing specialized logistics services to hemp farmers. So yeah, we're definitely putting ourselves together here.
So I'm interested. I mean, this may be a really dumb question, but I'm known for that anyways. That's why the Wheel of Stupid is here. Mm-hmm. But when you're transporting it, is it packaged or is it hung drying like we saw the pictures of?
So actually, this particular shipment was actually raw. It had just been harvested out of the field, and it's just raw in its natural plant form. I'm sorry. And we were actually transporting it to be dried out to a local drying facility here.
Gotcha.
Wow. And what kind of growth potential are you seeing in this? We mentioned with the election, a number of states have now approved that. So the regulatory environment is getting better for your business. So where do you see it going? You're expanding beyond Georgia?
Yeah, we do see ourselves expanding beyond Georgia. We actually have some contacts now in Texas and Oregon because of our load that we recently moved. And then we also were reached out to by someone in Colorado. So we're really excited about that.
So crossing state lines, is it similar paperwork to, any other type of controlled substance, like hazmat and so on and so forth? Are the regulations there? Okay.
Absolutely. You need to make sure your bill of ladings are in proper order before you do that. And then I will also tell you, too, if you're interested in doing it, definitely partner with your local law enforcement entities and state entities as well to make sure everyone's aligned on the law and what they're going to require if you do get stopped.
Wow, Hope. Well, we have about 30 seconds left. Plug your website, and where can people find you next?
Find us at www.hdwhitelogistics.com and hopewhiteconsulting.com if you're interested in getting into hemp. call us and we'll help you out.
Yeah, definitely. Super nice lady too. Big on the community down there in Georgia as well. And yeah, I'd love to get the hookup from Hope. Hope, we'll connect. We'll connect again. We'll connect again in the near future. But thank you so much for being a part of Live at Home with Dooner and the Dude here on What the Truck. We really appreciate it. Great. We're going to, coming up next is Robert Brothers. He's the director of product development over at McLeod. But did you also know that he went to, what is this? Huntington College. There's a ghost there, the Red Lady. I got to find out if he's ever seen her. He's laughing in the green room. Maybe he has. We'll be back on the other side of this break. Josh Asprey at HubTrans says, don't fear the reefer. Blythe at Digital Dispatch says, okay, the discussion with Hope was great. Lots of nuances that I didn't even think of. Yeah, it's a challenging space. She's really smart to get ahead of that and get into it.
It really is. And you got to think about those things. Like you mentioned the guys in Idaho going from one state to another where it's legal and then they get caught. And then what she mentioned was one of their difficult things is with law enforcement, even though they're totally legal.
Yeah.
Right. You get into that. You get into that issue. The one thing I wanted to ask her is, what do you do if there's a brake fire on that trailer? I mean, there's going to be a lot of interest.
Yeah, just start smoking everywhere. Yeah. Up. Well, I know that we said that we were going to have. Here he is, Robert Brothers. We're going to bring him up right now. He's director of product development over at McLeod. Robert, thanks for joining us on the air today.
Hey, thanks for having me. I'm excited to be here.
Now, Robert, can you tell us about this really quick before we jump into it? Is there really a ghost at Huntington College called the Red Lady that haunts the Pratt Hall?
Yes, I dated her for a couple of weeks, potentially. So.
Did I hear that right? He dated her for a couple of weeks?
Yeah.
Is that what he said?
Then she ghosted him.
Yeah, I thought about that.
She ghosted him.
The audio's going in and out a little bit, but in those days, the girls' dorms and the boys' dorms were totally separate. And, so there is a Huntington and the Red Lady.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I went to Catholic University. Ours were separate too.
Room for the Holy Ghost. I went to some of those
Make
dances.
room for the Holy Ghost.
Well, let's get to some business here. What does it mean to become a digital broker, and how does that encompass a lot more than just freight matching?
Well, to become a digital broker, you need to automate all aspects of your business, from finding customers to sourcing capacity to automating invoicing and settlement. So you want to complete the whole load cycle to really create the best experience for everybody, right? You want to take out the normal stuff and then deal with the exceptions where necessary.
Yeah, that makes sense. So can you really speak to the role that the actual digital freight matching, plays in all of the digital broker, in that digital broker concept?
Well, most of the digital freight matching piece is about sourcing orders, available orders to partners that help find capacity quickly. So while Power Broker products help you do that, as there are tools in the marketplace, other partners that have different solutions that need access to the capacity, available freight, so they can offer capacity, those loads where they can book it now, right? Shortage, you want to present the best load to the best carrier as quickly as possible, and you want to provide a way for them to get to your freight.
A big theme at our virtual events this year, a big trend line, Michael, I think that we've heard at almost every event is that, look, we've adopted tech. It's great. Some companies are on multiple iterations. One of our guests said some companies are on 4 iterations. But the problem is that with all these technologies, you're trying to solve the problem of fragmentation, but you get even more fragmentation. Now, we see it in the microcosmatic way of like communication. Like I've got email, I've got Slack, I got LinkedIn messages, I got a live chat, I got like 10 billion things coming at me. It's nuts. How do we solve that problem on the digital freight matching side?
Well, you want a strong partner to work with. I mean, one of the things that these partners bring to the table is they can bring a single solution for lots of capacity. If you take the traditional load board marketplaces, they have a lot of capacity that come to them every day. You have what we call brokerage tracking, logistics tracking of carriers. Those guys have a lot of capacity coming to them every day. Keep Trucking has a lot of capacity that's using their system. So again, you want to find a play where the trucks are. That's where you want to be, in this space.
Yeah, absolutely, Robert. I couldn't agree with you more. But there's many things that are going on here, and one of them is that I think we can all agree that there's issues with digital freight matching and digital brokers that will not replace everything that the voice broker has done.
Well, I think this is a longer conversation. For people seeking answers, they really need to talk to an expert. So where should we send them to?
Well, McLeodsoftware.com is the best place to send people. It may be the only place, really, but we'd be happy to help them. Obviously, the partners that we're working with include Aid, Trucker Tools, Truck Stop, Keep Trucking. So there are several people in the marketplace that we're trying to connect to our customers as ourselves.
Robert, thank you so much for your time today and for joining us on What the Truck. You know who else has joined us at this event, Michael Vincent?
Who's that?
Some of our lovely viewers' pets. Can we take a look at some of these animals on here? I know that my parents, they just got a puppy. They said that they were glad this event was virtual. I'm sure we'll see those pets any second now. There they go. Look at that lovely curly dog. My parents said they loved that this event was virtual because their dog stole their pants.
Look at this. Hey.
You don't need pants for a virtual event, Michael. There it is.
No, you don't.
There's the Shiba Inu. Beautiful looking dog. Know who's coming up next, though, is Navigate B2B. It's Steve Ferreira's new show. It's joining our 2021 lineup of shows, but you know what? We're debuting the season a little bit early. You can catch it right now in November before the clock ticks to January, because all of us want to fast forward this year. I've been seeing more Christmas lights than ever out early.
I've already got mine up.
Do you really?
Yeah, oh yeah.
I keep my tree up until St. Patrick's Day. Hey, thanks a lot for joining us on this show. I'm Dooner, that's the Dude. We're going to have one more of these later today, but stick around now for Navigate B2B. Peace and love.
Peace and love, everybody.